So Tim Pool still exists, for better or for worse. Still doing his thing, posting lots of incredibly low effort content. In a way, Tim Pool is both the most and least lazy of all these right-wing grifters. Speaking of terrible human beings who hopefully will someday burn in hell, Tim Pool. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about Tim Pool. For many years, I played a character, Steve Von Gino, largely modeled after Tim Pool. There was a lot of Steven Crowder in there as well. And then as it evolved, it just became its own kind of weird little thing. But Tim Pool, still around. A lot of people don't know that. We are getting very meta right now. We're in a way getting the opposite of meta in that meta would be if Steve talked about me. Me talking about Steve is just schizophrenia. His comments are truly insane. You can feel free to call me Steve whenever you like. So Tim Pool still exists, for better or for worse. Still doing his thing, posting lots of incredibly low effort content. In a way, Tim Pool is both the most and least lazy of all these right-wing grifters because he produces the most stuff, but he puts the least amount of work into it, which honestly, I respect. There you go. He will just come out and post 3 or 4 videos a day, do his Culture War podcast, do his Timcast IRL live stream every single night. Like literally every day he's producing like 5 or 6 hours of content, if not more. But it's all just him like reading an article, not fully understanding it, and then just kind of riffing on why it means the Republicans are good and you should vote for them. Like, let me do a little Tim Pool right here, okay? You go to CNN.com. So first thing he'd go CNN, disgusting, mainstream news. They don't know anything that they're talking about. They're lying to you, so you know you got to be lying. Will he say he's an independent? He'll go back and forth. Thing about Tim Pool is any one thing he'll say, he'll disagree with it the next thing he says. So he'll just read this article. DC mayor and police weren't aware of Trump's plans for federal control. Then he'll go, look at this. Trump also announced he's deploying the National Guard to address crime despite lower rates this year. The rates are lower, and they won't say that it was actually Donald Trump who did it. So that's actually really good. Disgusting mainstream media. And, you know, he'll just read the article for the first time, just kind of riff on it, ignore themes, using big balls as an excuse. Is that big balls is the Doge guy that Elon put or something? I don't know. But Tim Pool was caught. If you guys aren't familiar, and I'm sure you all are, he's a bold, truth-telling, independent journalist. He did get beat up by teenagers. So he's a big dork who did like Occupy Wall Street and had a job for a while live streaming stuff for Fusion and Vice. And then he got fired from them due to not being very good and also being afraid to leave his hotel room everywhere they sent him. They'd send him out to places like, you know, Syria or some shit. And he'd be like, all right, so what if the story is about how I'm in my hotel room this whole time? What if in fact you send me to Ferguson, Missouri? And then he did finally leave. He did, absolutely. He finally left. He went to Ferguson after the Michael Brown riots, the uprising where we showed him. But he went to Ferguson and he did finally leave his hotel room to interview the family of Michael Brown, I think it was, or the family of some victim. And so he just showed up to their residential house like in a flak jacket and a helmet. And they were like, we're not going to shoot you here. And he clearly was like, I'm in a war zone right now. So he's a very sad dork and we hate him. We don't like him. He got fired by both of these companies, Fusion and Vice. And he goes, well, it turns out I, in fact, hate the mainstream media because they fired me, because they're lying, that I'm not great. You know, that's kind of his whole bag. But I want to watch this video because he recently was talking about South Park, ladies and gentlemen. Swedish trip was epic. He did that. That was where Paul Joseph Watson, okay? You familiar with this guy? Paul Joseph Watson. Yeah, we'll get to you in a second, Tim. Paul Joseph Watson, a guy who has an annoying voice for a British person. If you were to ask someone to do an impression of an annoying British guy, they would just do Paul Joseph Watson. Is it seriously you're thinking the regressive left? The regressive left is actually not regressive. I'm Paul Joseph Watson. And he was a reporter on, God, he was so annoying. He, again, even other British people were like, this guy over here is a bit of a wanker. We got a bit of a wanker problem over here, eh? And I can't take it. Oi, 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 over here. With the ba-ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba. So Paul Joseph Watson said, you know, whatever, I'll give $30,000 that I'm sure he had and would have paid to whoever will go over to Sweden and do a story. Because Donald Trump had said there were migrant gangs who were like just, you know, playing the knockout game and whatever, pirating DVDs. Who knows what the hell he was talking about. And so Paul Joseph Watson said he'd give $30,000. Tim Pool agreed. He went over to Sweden and did this documentary about what he would call no-go zones, which aren't a thing. And then he was in a mall and he would just walk up to random brown people and just go like, would you like to be interviewed for this? And a lot of them said, no, I don't want to talk to you, you weird little goblin. And so he claimed that he was going to be killed by them and the police told him to leave, when in fact, the people were like, just don't fucking interview us, you goddamn loser. Tim Pool sucks. And a couple years back now, I guess this was last year, he was caught receiving millions of dollars from the Russian government to produce his show, The Culture War, which no one watched. And he denies it now. As soon as it happened, he'd come out and say like, yeah, you know, I'm the victim of this. They all had him, Dave Rubin, Benny Johnson, all these people. He did bank on no one speaking Swedish, which is actually true. Swedish is not a real language. No one's like, you know, when the Swedish chef goes Gurgen, Flurgen, Blurgen, that's as real as anything else. No, he was caught taking millions of dollars from Russia to produce his nonsense show. At the time, he claimed, well, I didn't know it was from Russia. It's like, would you like to donate it? Sure, I'll buy another skate park that I can kick all the children out of. Consequently, he denies it now, but his views have really kind of taken a wash, okay? He's not doing outstanding. And I wanted to watch this recently with him talking about South Park. South Park has gone hard into making fun of Donald Trump lately. And I think that actually is very meaningful. They're not political normally. They're just edgelords. They hate being scolded for whatever. And I think the South Park mocking of Donald Trump is more significant than anything else we've seen that's anti-Trump, because I think it will actually reach people who could be swayed. The way Donald Trump won in 2024, I think, there wasn't just one way, but a couple things. But a big thing was people like Joe Rogan, and another reason Tim Pool's kind of dropped off is just, you know, the right-wing media machine runs fast and consumes a lot. And Joe Rogan had an actual show business career, so he outranked Tim like crazy. Tim wanted to be. Tim was, and I've actually never seen this, but I should pull it up. Tim moved to LA after he dropped out of the 8th grade, and he's from Chicago, where I'm from. And I've met one or two people who claim they might be completely wrong, but they claim they like knew him when he was growing up, and he's a liar and was not from like the streets or anything like that. I can't verify that. I don't know. But the point is, Tim, when he dropped out of middle school, moved to LA to try to be an actor. Absolutely, utterly failed to do so. Although apparently he was in one episode of that show, 1,000 Ways to Die. Like, you know, whatever. This guy tripped and his dick got caught in a lawnmower. And it's just Tim Pool apparently wearing the beanie in like 2003. It's going like, I don't know. I haven't seen it. But Joe Rogan had an actual show business career. He didn't seem to be on this, you know, it's the exact reason why Tim Pool will always claim, well, I'm independent, I'm not right wing, is because right wing politics are so fucking odious to so many people, especially to women, that young men don't want to be associated with him. That's changing. That's slowly changing as we progress, but it's still a lot of it, you know? So here's him talking about South Park. Massive major cope. Let's watch it.
Creators scored $1.5 billion in a deal with Paramount. And the latest episode that came out and is trending is about Donald Trump, to which Newsweek says South Park eviscerates Donald Trump after Paramount gives them $1.5 billion.
This is what I was talking about. Now, first off, I'm sure you can find many videos of him just going like, so Newsweek is fake news. They're going to trans all your kids and turn all your white kids into black trans women or whatever. It's nonsense. But he'll just read it. He's not seen this article before. He doesn't care. He just woke up and he's already getting the bag.
And it was terrible. I watched the episode. It is a miserably bad episode. Guys, holy crap.
I also like that he won't swear because then he'll get demonetized. That's a whole thing with all these guys. Like PBD, who we'll talk about afterwards, they won't curse on their shows. They have to say like, I am fed up with this crap. All of this garbage. It is very funny. I did not watch the South Park episode, but the bits that I saw were funny just because you know it will actually make Donald Trump upset.
The jokes are 10 years old. I'm not kidding. I like South Park. They did fantastic when they were making fun of wokeness, PC principle. The problem with even how they mocked wokeness, however, was that it's just straight on the nose saying, hey, remember thing? So they got this latest episode where Donald Trump is the president and
that unfortunately was not just in the episode. He is also the president in reality.
Joke is basically that he's fat, has a tiny wiener.
Yeah.
That's it. They don't actually get into anything. I got to be honest, guys. If you've been following South Park, I mean, this show's been on my whole life. It's kind of weird. They had that episode.
So it has not been on his whole life. It started in the 1990s, late 1990s. He's got to be honest. I love that when someone just goes, I got to be honest with you, which is a way of killing time. Tim Pool has a talent. He does have an actual talent, which is bullshit. He is good at being a bullshitter. So you put him in front of a microphone and he will just start talking, start reading stuff, start filling time. It's not like funny or interesting. He's not particularly like handsome or engaging or charismatic, but he will talk. And every so often he'll say something that will get a right winger appropriately angry, horny, or sad.
Where Stan, one of the characters' parents, are going to get divorced. And it was
this is his good bit when he goes, all right, listen, I got to get this to close to 20 minutes so I can get the ads in there. What if I just describe episodes of South Park? All right, so there's this one where the aliens come and they get Cartman and they put something up his butt and they do that. How much time do I got? Oh, phooey fiddlesticks. I got to keep going.
So I guess it was like a facsimile of the debate between Matt and Trey over whether they wanted to continue doing South Park. And it was very obvious they did not. But it's a strong IP that makes money. So they decided to keep doing it anyway. And that's just, it feels like the horse is dead. It's beaten to death. And now you're just dragging it down the road.
Mm-hmm.
So they came back with these specials. Some of them were really weird. Like a decade after Occupy Wall Street, they did an Occupy Wall Street episode. It was like, guys, are you out of ideas? And now they're doing.
The important thing is they need to hire Tim Pool for their writer's room. Talking about South Park or his own show. Yeah, no kidding. He accidentally watched his own show and didn't know.
Doing this. And let me tell you, guys, Donald Trump is Saddam Hussein. Not funny. They're not playing at Trump. This is what the left does, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I think
yes, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, notorious for being on the left. They've consistently been accused of being too far left.
It's funny because I don't know if you could include Matt and Trey as in like the left, but I would assume.
Okay, well now you're destroying the point I just made, Timothy.
Assume that they're gonna fall in the default liberal position, meaning
I don't know why you would think that. It's not true.
Is an easy target, and they decided to go after it. Some of it was really good. Some of it was a little too on the nose, right? But it's like, okay, at least there's institutions coming out against it. The problem.
So we are 2 minutes into this video, and he has said nothing. Nothing has. All he has said this whole time. I don't know what you're typing right there. Famously against the Iraq War. Yes. No. You've almost got it. Anyway, it's over 2 minutes. 2 minutes and 12 seconds into this video, and so far he said that South Park isn't that good, but he still likes it. It's amazing this guy's ability to talk, and at the end of it, not have anything he actually said, but also he said everything. The crazy thing about Tim Pool is he's good at implying things. So you watch his video at the end and you go, I think he wants a race war and to like purge the degenerates, but he will always be able to deny that. He would never admit that that's what he actually is saying.
Problem with this, my friends, Matt, Trey, please hear me.
They are not your friends.
Want you to make fun of Donald Trump.
Just like you do, Tim. Just like you do all the time. That's my favorite thing, where he won't ever actually insult Trump in any way, but he'll, if pressed on it. Because again, Tim's number one thing is YouTube views and just being full of shit. Just absolute bullshit. Beyond lying, it's not lying. Lying requires taking a concrete opinion on something. What Tim Pool is all about is just flooding the zone so nothing matters and no point has actually been made. So he will never actually insult Donald Trump, but if pressed on it, he will go like, well, no, I have criticisms of Donald Trump. He talks too much. You know, it's the same way as he'll go like, I'm not a Republican. I could criticize the Republican Party. When have you ever done that? Well, I've said some of them weren't nice enough to Trump. Yeah.
But you have to make fun of Donald Trump in a way that actually makes fun of him. So here's what I think.
I don't know. But the point is, he obviously is full of shit and nothing he says matters. But if they were to come out and be like, well, Donald Trump's immigration policy sure is bad, and it is bad. It's terrible. He's a Nazi freak. But that wouldn't really bother him because Donald Trump doesn't care about that. It will bother him to just be like, he's got a tiny ass little dick. That's funnier. That's actually funny. He doesn't get it.
CBS nukes Colbert. They were losing $40 to $50 million per year on this.
That's what they were saying, because they canceled the Stephen Colbert show, which apparently was something that still existed. I don't know anyone watches it. You know, I want to be up in arms. I don't like that the president can just get shows canceled, but I'm also like, late night TV's dying. Who cares? Exactly. But they claimed they were losing $40 to $50 million. I just find that hard to believe. But on the other hand, some of these people have wild salaries. Like, it's not impossible that Colbert alone, just his salary was over $50 million. I could probably look that up and verify it. Not going to.
Why would they have Colbert up and running at a loss of $40 million a year? Well, I think it was political.
Mm-hmm.
You're basically saying we want to pay for messaging. If you were a political elite, let me phrase it like this. If you're rich, what do you want for? When you've got, let's just do some math, right? Let me do some hard math. Let's say,
what if he goes, let me do some hard math. So 4 plus 5, what's that? This is amazing cope. Some of the most beautiful cope we've ever seen. We have not seen copium this pure since the Chinese copium dens of the 1980s, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's say you have 20 million.
Does he have a calculator? He has an abacus. He just brings up. Yeah, he's great at math.
Savings. What's your general interest per year?
Mm-hmm.
Right now, based on the numbers, right? $20 million, rough breakdown of annual interest rates. It's calculating it for me. You're making at least $100,000 on a basic savings. If you're doing a high yield savings,
I'm realizing now, by the way, he was just asking ChatGPT. That's what he does.
20 million is sitting there. It's 400,000. If you're doing bonds and ETFs, you can be making $1 million per year.
Again, he has to fill up 20 minutes. So he's just going to ramble. But let me cut to what he's actually trying to say here, which obviously is nonsense. The cope that he's saying, and all of these guys always come out with the exact same spin on this stuff. Tim Pool, Matt Walsh, Dave Rubin, all these guys, often the exact same words. There literally must be like a text chain where their Russian handler tells them what they need to say. But what he is claiming is that Paramount, he's going, oh, so you think Paramount canceled Stephen Colbert because he made Trump angry? You ever think that maybe we paid for the show to make Trump look bad? Why did you cancel it then? We don't need to answer questions at this time. It's just a nonsense, silly thing to be saying. Like, what? But it also reinforces this bubble, which is that no one can actually have a criticism of Donald Trump. That's not something they believe a human can actually come to. So it always has to be this vague conspiracy with no actual evidence. And then we just ramble for 5 minutes about interest rates that he's probably wrong about. He's probably doing the math wrong. Like, it's nonsense. And the cope of all these losers, like there was that cartoon made about it, is that Trey Parker and Matt Stone were like, we don't want to make fun of Donald Trump, dude. We're like punk rock skateboarders. We like don't care about that. And they're like, what if we gave you $1.5 billion to do it? And they're like, whoa, okay, we better do it for that money and go that hard on it. It got choppy for you too. The stream is getting choppy again. I don't know why that is. Oh, wait. I did just drop some frames here. 0.4 frames. I'm at CPU's 14.4. Is it still choppy? Is it any better now? Nah, I don't care. Deal with it. I don't have good internet. So the cope that all of these people are saying is that Trey Parker and Matt Stone were paid off to insult Donald Trump, which would be very funny if they got $1.5 billion and they're like, I don't know, he's got a tiny dick or something. Anyway, let's buy an island.
And if you're doing a balanced investment portfolio, just having 20 million, you're going to get 1.6 million per year. If you're doing aggressive.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead a little bit here.
Break into Mr. Garrison's house, and he's just sitting there watching White Lotus, and they're like, wait a minute, you're not Trump? Because now it's actual Trump, which is funny considering the $1.5 billion deal. But all they do is
just call it Yossarian.
You can see
sure,
the
image
right on the screen is they have Donald Trump banging Satan. He's a one-for-one copy of Saddam Hussein.
He is not. That's not true. Let's go ahead to the end a little bit. So he manages to get almost 20 minutes out of this. Good for him. That probably is better. Drop the Andrews cleaner. On the other hand, that would require typing things in various boxes, and I'm very lazy.
Own life. The argument being the anti-woke personalities have nothing to live for anymore.
We got into here. Is he now reviewing The Leftovers or something? What's happening?
It's just so lazy. I feel like Matt and Trey don't actually pay attention to anything anymore. I mean, you're old, you're ultra rich. Why would you? And so
you're right, actually. I would only need to press the backspace button. Like, whatever. Like 9 times, which I could do.
They're getting their news skimmed off The Daily Show or something. That's what everybody's doing. They're so checked out.
I do like his implication where he's like, they're just getting their news from like Daily Show. They don't know the real news, okay? They don't know the real news that all my viewers know. For example, do you know all fires are actually started by ghosts?
And the problem is they're doing this to try and quash people like us that pay attention to the news. And
it's literally saying, people like us, we pay attention to the news. I read upwards of 4 headlines a day, and I will then say that all of these publications are fake and gay. But, whatever. Nothing needs to matter or, have any actual coherence.
Aren't swayed by these fake. Like, you can't make fun of Trump for something that isn't Trump. Like, if Trump came out and was like, look, I've got polka dot pants, I'd be like, I don't get it. Like, that's what they do.
So, I mean, how do you know Donald Trump doesn't have a tiny dick, man? Yeah, he does. He does not. He barely even reads the first 2 paragraphs, and then he immediately forgets it. He'll contradict himself all the time. What's crazy about Tim Pool is that he is wildly uneducated about everything, and that's fine. You don't need to be educated, but he claims he was. Yes, he just moves on and skips over any part of an article that ignores, because his point is not to get news out to you. His point is to produce bullshit for 20 minutes. That's all it needs. Now, he's claiming that Donald Trump doesn't have a tiny dick. How do you know that? Stormy Daniels, the pornographic film actress who said his penis resembled, I think, Toadstool from Mario Kart, if I remember correctly, which was very funny. She didn't say he had, like, no dick, but she said it was, like, not a terribly impressive dick.
So they have like,
but more importantly, Donald Trump has crazy tiny ass dick energy. He could have a big fucking hog down there. All he does all day is bitch and moan about who crossed him, and I haven't gotten what I deserved, and I deserve so much more, and it's all everybody else's fault. He's got little ass dick energy. That's what they're mocking here.
Like a CGI or AI scene of Donald Trump crawling naked through the desert with a tiny penis. I just don't get it.
Americans eat too much sugar. I mean, gosh, we're sweet, aren't we? Always. That is literally what it is. That is him just going like listen, you might say that I have bad grades, but if you actually look at my report card that we see right here, and he's just making this up as he goes along. He has not seen the report card. He's just going to riff on it when he gets there. So as you can see right here in chemistry, in fact, I got a D, but actually that D could stand for dynamite, which means that I'm actually doing really well. Okay. Also, that scene wasn't AI, that South Park scene where Trump was crawling in the desert. I thought it was AI. Turns out it actually was a real thing they shot. I looked it up. I saw behind the scenes videos, photos, whatever it was. And Trey Parker's finger was playing Donald Trump's penis, which is very funny.
Like, it sounds more like you're trying to insult Trump than you are trying to make fun. Like, it seems like a lot of the episode was a direct message to Trump. Like he said, hey, Trump, look, we're insulting you. And
got him.
Trump's not even gonna see it. And then the regular
Trump 100% saw it. Absolutely saw it. Do you think Trump doesn't do any president stuff all day? He doesn't like do briefings. He doesn't read. He doesn't care.
other people are watching it. I don't understand why that does anything. If you're concerned about illegal immigration and deportations, why did they literally show? I'm not kidding, guys. They showed Donald Trump buck naked in the desert, full frontal. What? It's so terrible. I don't know.
Yeah, I get that impression. I think it's a combination of people actually running the country. Stephen Miller being one of them. It was Elon Musk for a while. Then they kicked him out because he was just genuinely personally unpleasant to be around, which I like. But the whole Tim Pool thing here is he has to be a defender of Trump. He knows his audience has to hear a defense of Trump. They need to hear it, but he can't be like uncool. And this is why I think the South Park thing gets him, because South Park remains cool and like edgy and counterculture and all that kind of stuff. In a weird sort of way, it really does. And so consequently, he has to be like, you know, I'm not like mad at South Park, just disappointed. You know, I'm not like, it's his way of always having his cake and eating it too. And just being what many would call a little bald bitch. So maybe suck it, Tim. I don't know.